people. So, without further ado, and this is what we're doing right here because we're getting ready for the Word of God. Answer the call, want to present or introduce to some and present to others, none other, and we said it already, Apostle Derrick Zachary. He's the pastor of Walking in Authority International Ministries, located at 2459 Roosevelt Highway, Suite C4 in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's 30337 for that zip code. And you can also email them at walkinginauthority@yahoo.com. And if you want to be a blessing, cash out Walking in Authority 09. Well, you can't forget that. All right. The man of God, the word of the Lord is in your hands.
Amen. Again, I bless God for being on Answer the Call. It is just the name itself makes you think, did I really answer or did I really hang up the phone? Because oftentimes we are in a place where we say, God, whatever you want to do, use me, until he actually want to use you. And then we hang that phone up like he ain't called us. And so I was just kind of thinking along the way what to say. It's a lot of things. And I thank God that you played that specific music from Bree Babineau, which is from Louisiana, from my home state. And so that it's a blessing to hear what God is saying. And I was thinking about the Wizard of Oz. And a lot of times we'll complain when God puts us in a place that could be beneficial for us. But when we don't recognize it, we tend to complain and act out of a certain way. And so in the Wizard of Oz, God begins to brew up a twister to relocate Dorothy into another place that she wasn't familiar with. And so it's in that place that she wasn't familiar with where her gifts start to activate and to operate. And the first thing that happens is that her house falls on a witch. And so she releases munchkins of people that was bound by somebody that keeps you in captivity so that you can't move into your destiny. And so she was trying to figure out, I did nothing. And sometimes we'll fight a battle that God has already designed, that something will fall on your problem that you don't even have to fight it about. And so as we begin to flow in this place, the Munchkins begins to celebrate the woman of God, and she gets a word from the good witch that says, in order to get back home, you need to get to the yellow brick road. You need to go and see the Wizard in Oz. And so she has these directions, and sometimes we know that God will give us directions, but sometimes we don't know what goes on along the pathway. And so along the pathway, you're going to hit a few obstacles along the way, or you're going to meet some people that can encourage you and speak to you along the way. So what do you do when a word is prophetically released over your life, but you don't have the rest of the puzzle with what is released? And so as she begins to find this yellow brick road, her first encounter is with a scarecrow. And she's watching crows over this scarecrow that is saying, you can't get down off of this cross. And so there is a place in your life that the cross got to become real in your life, and that you're going to have to experience. And that there are some people along the way that say you can never get down off of this cross. But we got to realize that he told us to pick up the cross and follow him. He never told us to get on the cross and be nailed, because that was his position. And so therefore, she begins to have something brew up on the inside of her to speak to the crows, to say, stop bothering the scarecrow. And in the midst of it, he gets down and fall. And along the way, you're going to fall through some trials and some tribulations. And she said, but don't worry, you're going to be strengthened in this. You can still make it. And so he begins to tell her, what is that you're looking for? Because mind you, that the scarecrow always said he had a mind problem. And so therefore, the first encounter on your journey to when God calls you into something, you're going to have to deal with your mind problem. You're going to have to deal, because he says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so once your mind get renewed, you can now think clearly or see the direction that the Father wants to lead you in. And so all of a sudden, the scarecrow now becomes the prophet to speak to Dorothy, to speak her into her position. And so therefore, they find this yellow brick road and begins to sing a song, Ease on Down the Yellow Brick Road. So they are in this place of worship. They're in this place of giving God thanks. And the scarecrow realizes that I'm going to get this brain because the apostle just spoke to me to say, I'm going to meet somebody that's going to get me home, but he might just give you a brain. And in the midst of them worshiping, they start to hear a cry. Understand that when you lift God up, when you worship him in spirit and truth, he'll let you hear the cries of others when they are in a place when they need to be restored. And so they begin to follow where the noise is coming. And all of a sudden they run upon the Tin Man who is laying there on their back. If you've ever seen The Wiz, walk with me for just a moment. And so therefore he's on his back and Dorothy asked him a question. Now, this is the same Dorothy that said she didn't want to be at Auntie Am. She didn't want to be stuck in this place. So now God got her operating in another place that she wasn't familiar with. And so therefore God will take you into a place to activate your gifts that's been lying dormant so that you can still walk in purpose. And so as she sees the Tin Man, she asks him, why are you down here? And he begins to say, everybody left me. Everybody walked away from me. I just don't know what to do. And he begins to do his whining moment. And so I realized the next part of our journey is that we're going to have to deal with some of our fleshly ways. We're going to have to deal with the contentions of our heart. And so therefore, Dorothy is still asking the question, but what's the real problem? And so he decides to tell her, I have a heart condition. I don't have a heart. And so what he was saying is, well, I damaged the church along the way. I damaged this marriage along the way. I was damaging people along the way because I got too comfortable in my position. Everybody was coming and I was giving them the great entertainment, but at the same time, I wasn't giving my all a refresher. And so I started to rust out, and then they left me when I got all rusted out. And so he said, but if you slide me some oil, I know everything is going to be all right. And so now I have to understand the position of what the Tin Man say. The first thing he says is put some oil on my back. And so therefore, because his posture has now got to change when you come into the humility of Christ. And so therefore, and I said, God, well, why he started off with the back first? He said, because he had to learn a new posture and learn how to bow in my presence. And so he then now says, put some oil on my knees. And I'm trying to figure out why the knees was next. He said, because I got to teach him how to restand now and be fortified and learn how to plant his feet on solid ground. And so therefore his knees will bring him into a position of being in my presence. And then he said, put some oil in my mouth. And then I was like, okay, why the mouth? Now he says, because now I got to give him new words to speak. I got to give him a refreshing that when I speak, it comes with a purity of who I am. And then he says, put some oil on my elbows and hands, and that realize that I'm in a place of surrenderance. I can't do nothing else but give you glory. And so as I put this oil on the rest of me, I get regenerated. Now the whole time it's the scarecrow and Dorothy, which the apostle and the prophet now restores the pastor back to his original state so that he can move in the things that God gets to him. And then of course Dorothy says, well, I'm on my way to go see somebody. And as she begins to say, he's going to get me home, he might give him a brain, so he might just give you a heart. And so therefore they're taking this journey, the three of them, because we know where two or three are gathered, touching as agreeing, he would be in the midst. And they go to worshiping God all over again. And then they come to a territory that they start to fear because something just didn't feel right. So my next journey is I got to deal with my fear concept, because oftentimes while I'm moving, I start to fear some stuff that might come come upon me. I start to feel what I'm capable of doing. And so they meet the scary lion, and he's making all of this noise, but don't realize he don't have no power. And so therefore, there's a lot of times people come in our life, they're making a whole lot of noise, they're making a whole lot of sound, but ain't going nowhere in kingdom. And so therefore, they get afraid while he's doing all of this roaring. And God sets up little Toto to go and bite his paw, and all of a sudden that the cat starts to cry. Now all of this power, but yet you're boo-hooing because somebody bit you the wrong way, because somebody started to talk about you the wrong way, because somebody lied on you the wrong way, because somebody did something to you to just upset your fleshly play. And so what they start to do, Dorothy began to say, you making all of this noise in the kingdom, but you don't have a problem. And he begins to tell Dorothy, it's because I really was rejected by my family. So now we got to identify what the real problem was of rejection. And so because he had been rejected, he started operating out of a rejected place. And oftentimes we're preaching kingdom out of a rejected place and not going anywhere. And we already know that hurt people like to hurt other folks. And so if I'm damaged, I want you to be damaged. But because I have an authority on my life, I got to change your trajectory. And so therefore, I now say, listen, we're going to get you together because we can't let you operate in this vein. And so they begin to move, and they come upon the poppy seeds. And so we got to be careful when we go to certain churches that they're not wooing us to sleep, that they're not sending out signals to put us to sleep. And we're going to church. I heard the woman of God say she went to go see the play David, and then she went to sleep. We got too much people putting folks to sleep with no power, no destiny, no glory on him. And so now God says, now you got leaders falling asleep under a sound, but think it not strange that the Tin Man nor the Scarecrow was affected by the sound that was going on, and because they were developed a different way. And so this same Tin Man that didn't have a heart began to cry over Dorothy and the scary lion. He started to pour down from a position. Come on, let's go back to this knee situation, back to this back situation, put him back in a position to cry out to God on behalf of the leader. So we're allowing leaders to go through some stuff that they don't have to go through, because the people of God won't pray for their leaders. They won't intercede for their leaders. They won't fast for their leader. So now the Tin Man gets into this spot to now get before the woman of God, speak over her life, and she comes back into life. So there's a place that God will allow CPR to happen. CPR stands for Christ Provides Restoration. And so while you're putting chest compressions in, I'm providing restoration so that you can live to fulfill purpose in your life. And so they get through this, they make it to the city called Oz. And all of a sudden, now you got to have a certain access. Y'all know how we go to all of these conventions, and you got to have certain access. And so all of a sudden, the guard at the door realizes the shoes on her feet. And so therefore, he said, I got to let you in. So understand that when you come with an authority and you walk in your gifting, God puts an authority on your life and grace you to go in places that other folks can't get in. And so therefore, they walk into this city, and we got all of the change of gold, change of green, change of red, change of yellow. We got all this going on for an entertainment. And so God said, I can no longer let my people be entertained. I got purpose that have showed up on the scene. And so now all is giving this great big announcement. I need to see the woman with the shoes. And she said, well, I can't go nowhere unless my homies is coming with me. And he said, well, what you say? She said, no, I said what I said. They coming with me. You got to understand, when you got to deal with something that that you're not aware of, you got to have your posse with you. That's why God sent them out 2 by 2, that while you're doing kingdom, somebody's praying, covering you, building you up, saying that you can do this. So they go into the building, and he's making all of this noise. And now he gives Dorothy an assignment to say, I need you to kill the wicked witch of the West. Now, how you gonna going to give me an assignment that you were supposed to handle, and I'm not even supposed to be here. And so all they knew is that they had a word that she killed the first witch, but didn't understand she didn't kill him. The house landed on her. So therefore, this church landed on my problem. This church landed on my situation. Y'all are playing with me today. And so therefore, God will allow your church to land on your problem so that you won't even have to fight it. And so all of a sudden, she is now upset that I got to handle this situation, but she does it because of grace, of the authority. And so along the way, they are captured by these little flying monkeys. And so there are imps that are sent out to distract you from kingdom, to make it look like you're not winning. And so therefore, I remember the word David said, let me inquire of the Lord. Shall I pursue after this? And so they are captured, and Evil Lynn is saying, I need you to give me these shoes. I need you to do this. And he has all of the people hung up. The scarecrow is on this pressing board. The cat is up by his tail. The Tin Man is on a press. And so she started to damage him, but they begin to speak to Dorothy and say, don't you take these shoes off. Don't matter about us, but don't you take these shoes off, because we know what the word is over your life. And all of a sudden, this crazy scarecrow that said he didn't have a mind told Dorothy to look up. We got to look towards the hills from which cometh our help, because all of our help comes from Christ. Sometimes somebody just needs to tell you, look up. And so while you're looking up, she begins to see the sprinkler system. Understand that the water represents the word. The word will always kill your assignment. Oh, Lord, help me, Jesus. Your word will always kill the witch that wants you dead. And so she pulls the sprinkler, and all the thing Evil Lynn could say is, I'm allergic to the word. I'm allergic to this problem. And so all of a sudden she's gone away with because of the word. And all of a sudden everybody comes alive. And everybody gets to worshiping. Now, this same Dorothy that went to Munchkinland delivered some folk. Now she in another city delivering some folk, all because she said she didn't want to be at Auntie Am's. And so now she's doing the work outside of where she is. And so all of a sudden she gets back and find out that there was really no wizard. It was just somebody that was an illusion, making themselves to be big, because he now responds and said, they just thought I had some power and they put me in this position. So how many folks in a position because they were voted in because people thought you had something? And so like Saul, they voted Saul in saying, oh, he got the right look. He got the right status quo. He got the everything we need, but he didn't have the grace to handle the people. And so you got to always watch for the person that's on the backside of something that's tilling the ground. God will always call you while you're working the project. He will always call you while you're already doing the work. And so she gets back, Glenda the good witch shows up and said, you had the power the whole time to get back home. And so therefore, all you had to do was click your shoes to get you back where you were. And so sometimes you got to prophesy over your own self. Sometimes we're waiting for folks to come and prophesy to us. And God said, my word is prophecy. Use it. It'll take you to where you need to be. And so all of a sudden she ends back to her original place, but with a new spirit, with a new mindset, with a new destiny, with a new purpose on her life. That's where God is calling us to walk into a new place and be transformed. Stop operating in the old, because the old things are passed away, and behold, all things are new. So if I'm a new creation, I can't act old. I can't act old. And so this is what God put in my spirit for the people of God tonight.
Oh my God. I was looking at that time. I said, well, we still good.
Amen.
I had never in the history of my long-legged life heard the Wizard of Oz broken down like that.
Oh, not the Wizard of Oz breaking down. Oh my goodness.
I ain't gonna never think of it the same. Oh
never.
My God. All I thought was follow the yellow brick road. The road.
All right.
Come on, y'all.
That was awesome.
You said, Apostle, you said that thing. Boy, that
yes,
back and knees and mouth. Oh my God, CPR, Christ provides restoration. What? And the church will drop down on your situation. Y'all ain't ready. Oh my God. Okay, let me calm down. because I know we only got like 3 minutes. You have been listening to Apostle Derrick Zachary, pastor of Walking in Authority International Ministries, located at 2459 Roosevelt Highway, Suite C4, Atlanta, Georgia, 30337. Walking in Authority at yahoo.com. You can give them an email. If you want to be a blessing, Cash App, Walking in Authority 09.